Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, February 19th. We're here for the purpose of the regular meeting of the Elmhurst City Council. It's 7:35. I would ask that you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Cyprian, I ask you to take the roll.
Mulliner?
Here.
Brennan?
Here.
Sabatino?
Here.
Deuter? Here. Dunn?
Here.
Leader?
Here.
Blumsky? Here. Bram?
Here.
Toledo? Absent. York? Absent. Levin?
Here.
Park?
Here.
Conquest?
Here.
Kennedy?
Here.
12 present, 2 absent.
All present, 2 absent. We have a quorum. We are in session. It's not on our agenda tonight, but Beth Marchetti is joining us from the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau, and I'm not sure if we've gotten. We're good to go?
Yeah, but not as good as it was before.
Beth comes to us once a year and lets us know what she's doing and how wonderful DuPage is and how lucky we are to be in DuPage. So I'm going to turn it over to Beth, and she's got a short presentation for us.
Thank you, Mayor Morley.
Welcome, Beth. Good to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you tonight. I'm going to be brief, but also have great news to share with you. For those of you who don't know me, again, Beth Marchetti, I'm the Executive Director of the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau. We are the Certified Convention Bureau representing DuPage County. John Quigley, do not take pictures of me.
Too late.
We were founded in 1985, certified by the state of Illinois. We are actually funded through a public-private partnership through hotel tax. So we are under the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. We get a small portion of the state hotel tax back in a grant, and it's matched by the contributions from our municipalities. So thank you very much for helping us make that state grant. If it's not matched, it actually goes to our competitors throughout Illinois: Peoria, Tinley Park, Rosemont, et cetera. So thank you. We want to keep that right here in DuPage County. The majority of those monies are used for sales initiatives. We meet with meeting planners and sports rights holders to bring business to our communities. So it's through economic development, through tourism, through visitation to our hotels, to our museums, restaurants, and more. We also spend a lot of dollars on marketing initiatives. So our sales team is divided into different market segments. Each person has a specific market segment. We have 4 people on that team, as you can see, each specializing in a certain market segment that they meet with meeting planners to go after. Our marketing team promotes the county and our new brand, which is Do More DuPage. Before you are a couple examples of some digital billboards we ran this past summer. We also do a lot of PR and marketing. And we're happy to say that Mr. Joe Toda at Red Arrow Tap Room is on our board of directors, and we were featured with Judy Sue on ABC7, featuring Elmhurst and some of the breweries in the county. We're also wonderfully happy to be on WLS Radio, WGN around town. Anything we can get the word on DuPage and the city of Elmhurst, we're happy to do that. So visitor numbers in DuPage County continues to grow. We're a $2.6 billion industry in DuPage. 23,000 people are employed in the hospitality industry. We are certainly an economic development engine and a job creator. So those are just some stats there that we get from our Illinois Office of Tourism. John Quigley was on our strategic plan advisory group. 4 years ago, when I took over, we decided that we really needed to have a plan, a tourism master plan on how we're going to be competitive with Chicago. Chicago has built 3,500 new hotel rooms, in the last 3 years. So it's really hurting some of our hotel rates out here in the DuPage County area in the suburban market. So we want to make sure we're driving additional overnight stays to our hotels. So one of those ways we're doing that is through sports. We will continue to go after meetings and conventions and small association and corporate meetings, but we will also continue to go after new sports initiatives. So believe it or not, one of your best venues is right close by in Addison, Illinois, the Stardust Bowl. Believe it or not, it's an 84-lane bowling center. It's one of the only ones in the Midwest, and it continues to drive weekend business, weekend after weekend after weekend. Another reason why we want to be really competitive in DuPage County is legislative initiatives were passed in 2010. So you, unbeknownst, hop in a cab at O'Hare or Midway, which is now going to be applying to Uber and Lyft as well, and you're assessed a penalty to come to the suburban market. It's helping Chicago with meeting incentives and bid fees. So we want to make sure that our hotels in DuPage County remain viable and healthy. What we did in response to that initiative is started a municipal grant program. So if a hotel is on the border of closing a piece of business and the difference of a meeting planner booking between Rosemont and an Elmhurst property or Elmhurst and an Addison property is $1,000 to help them with transportation, we're able to help them with a grant. So with a $52,000 contribution, we've been able to book an additional 19,000 rooms above and beyond what we've already been able to do. So that's just a small part of what we can do to help offset the Rosemont-Chicago advantage. So some of the things that we've been able to do for Elmhurst just in this year were those 2 pieces of bowling that I talked about, and I'm happy to announce that there's 2 hotels in Elmhurst that are part of the BMW Championship hotel room blocks. So this coming summer, fall, is BMW, which is part of the FedEx Cup, will be held at Medina Country Club. So Elmhurst is primed to be successful during that golf tournament. Here's just a couple features on Elmhurst. I'm happy to say we have a partnership with Great Lakes USA, so we go after international business. That picture on the left was Miriam Blumenthal right here, who brought 15 tour operators from China, Miriam? From China. So those are people who actually bring business to the United States, so we want to make sure that they are knowledgeable about the Chicago suburban area. We have our very own museum campus, we're proud to say, in Elmhurst, so that was a feature that we had in our visitor's guide last year. Just wanted to share that with you. Social media is off the chart. Elmhurst Symphony, just going gangbusters, lots of photos, Instagram. So again, all those things help drive working in partnership with Cassandra Schreff, who's on our board as well, and we attend the monthly tourism meetings here in Elmhurst. We want to make sure that we're partnering together to help expand Elmhurst's footprint. Next month, February 28th, we'll be featuring our dining video, and we shot that right here in Elmhurst. So please join us at Red Arrow Tap Room. Although it's not in Elmhurst, it's at Joe's Place in Naperville. And we invite all of you to join us from 3 to 5 p.m. We're going to be launching our new video, which features dining, and we'll be highlighting that on Check Please, on WTTW, and some different initiatives that we're going to be doing. So I really wanted to be brief, and I welcome any questions, but thank you always for your support, and I always look forward to seeing everyone here once a year, and I'll be back again with some other success stories. Any questions for me?
Thank you very much for that. Do we have any questions for Ms. Marchetti while she's here? We thank you for taking the time out to fill us in.
Thank you for putting me on the agenda, filling me in. And I do want to say thanks for your support. It's been really a pleasure to see an active group at DuPage Mayors and Managers, and appreciate all your support and work.
Thank you. Okay. Always nice to start out the meeting with some good news. On to agenda item 2, receipt of written communications from the public. At this time, is there any written communications anyone in the audience has that they wish to submit? If so, please raise your hand. Any written communications? Seeing none, we'll go on to public forum. This is an opportunity for anybody in the audience to address the council on any issue they so choose. When you're recognized by the clerk, we ask that you make your way over to this microphone to my right, your left. We are recording this, so we ask that you state your name for the record. Address is optional. Out of respect for the work that we have to get done here this evening, and for others that may want to speak, we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. If you go over 3 minutes, I will give you a gentle reminder and ask you to wrap up your comments. Clerk Cyprian, at this time, Has anybody signed up for public forum?
Yes, Mayor Morley. The first one would be Ben Silver.
Good evening. My name is Ben Silver, and I'm a community lawyer with the Citizen Advocacy Center at 188 Industrial Drive. I have attended most city council meetings for the last 3 years, but when I cannot make a meeting in person, I sit down in my office with a big bowl of popcorn and watch the excitement on the city's YouTube page. Elmhurst residents and advocates rely on videos of the meetings to stay informed about what's happening in the city and why their elected officials do what they do. With that in mind, I have a few concerns about item 5.13 on tonight's agenda, which I understand might be pulled, which is a report from the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee. And this report is recommending a reduction in the retention period of videotapes and DVDs of meetings from 5 years to 30 days. I hope that members of the committee will explain the necessity of this change. While the Local Records Commission does set the minimum requirement of these records, these and other records, it does not prevent the city from keeping or adopting a longer retention period out of purpose of transparency. It's my understanding that this report and recommendation will not affect the city's YouTube channel. However, I was unable to locate any city council record requiring that videos be uploaded and that the channel be maintained. If such a directive does exist, I hope the city council can point it out to the public and reiterate that commitment. If it does not exist, I ask the city council to amend the report to memorialize such a requirement. These videos serve the vital public interests of transparency and accountability. I appreciate your dedication to the transparency of city council meetings and hope you will reiterate your commitment to preserving the availability of these recordings. Thank you.
Lisa Gerhold.
Lisa Gerhold-Dirks, Elmhurst Cool Cities Coalition Chair. The city's sustainability plan includes a strategy about natural and organic lawn care that we feel should be addressed with the turf maintenance contract. It is unclear whether this topic was part of the contract conversations in committee. The use of synthetic lawn care products presents risks to environmental, human, pet, and pollinator health. Most products on the market contain one or more of these active ingredients: glyphosate, 2,4-D, proteamine, and dicamba. All are listed as either probable or possible carcinogens by the International Agency for the Research on Cancer. Goal 3, Strategy 4, in the Water Resources section of Elmhurst Sustainability Plan states the city should educate the community on natural and organic lawn care options and use municipal property lawn care practices as a model. The time frame for this strategy is short-term, defined as beginning within 1 year of plan adoption. Appendices 1 and 2, respectively, contain the following statements. The city is committed to using the lowest feasible amounts of toxic pesticides and fertilizers and will actively explore other methods in public plantings. And runoff from urban landscapes picks up a variety of chemicals and pollutants from lawns and roadways that directly discharge untreated into Salt Creek. We request the following before the contract is approved. Number 1, a list the specific city properties to be sprayed and the number of times per year those properties will be sprayed in the new contract. Number 2, list the specific chemical products and active ingredients to be used on each of the above properties in the new contract. Number 3, make a commitment to convert at least one of the 7 sites that have historically been synthetically treated to organic turf, with the possibility of converting additional sites during the contract. Preferably, the first site would be highly trafficked, where the educational component would be most visible. We suggest beginning at the Elmhurst History Museum property. Number 4, also per the plan, create a public awareness campaign to educate the community on the benefits of natural and organic lawn care. And lastly, number 5, we request a commitment from the city to notify residents, as you do with mosquito abatement, when lawn pesticides will be sprayed on city property. In cooperation with our coalition, the Elmhurst Park District allocated Van Voorst as its first pesticide-free park. Our conversations are ongoing, and as of last week, the park board indicated their willingness to expand this program to other parks. We've had similar discussions with Elmhurst College and District 205. Elmhurst Cool Cities is able and willing to be a resource for the city as you begin transitioning to natural lawn care practices as a result of the sustainability plan. Thank you.
Gail Renault.
Good evening, I'm Gail Rano, live at 345 Webster. Tonight, you are being asked to vote to approve a no-bid master supply contract for electricity aggregation for Elmhurst residents and small businesses that provides no savings. As renewable energy projects are booming all over the state and more opportunities for communities to purchase renewable energy directly from the source will be presenting themselves in the coming months, we believe Elmhurst will be missing the boat on these opportunities by pursuing this contract. The key points of the contract that are of concern to us are: 1, all Elmhurst residents and small businesses customers will pay the same price they would pay as if they were standard ComEd customers. There are no cost savings for anyone. Let me repeat, this is a no-bid contract with no savings for Elmhurst residents. No bid prohibits Elmhurst from comparing other options that might save money and fund actual renewable energy projects in the state of Illinois or in the Elmhurst community. 2, the proposed contract would not be purchasing any actual renewable energy, but simply renewable energy credits from out-of-state existing wind farms, which are not currently the best mechanism for promoting new renewable energy in Illinois. 3, between 40 and 60% of households would be placed in program. This subset would be selected by the provider in order to make it both profitable for MC Squared and permit the purchase of RECs or a cash disbursement. Again, no savings for Elmhurst households are included in the contract. The 40 to 60% does not include customers who use more energy than the average user. The biggest user will be set aside will reside within the standard ComEd customer set. 4, the proposed contract originally offered the city an opportunity to choose between renewable energy credits and a cash reimbursement. The renewable energy credits would come from wind farms outside of Illinois. Note that no new greenhouse gas reductions will be created by purchasing these RECs, and no new renewable energy will be built in Illinois with these RECs. By choosing to receive a cash reimbursement, these funds could be used to finance renewable energy projects in Elmhurst. At a minimum, choosing the cash option in lieu of renewable credits would at least allow Elmhurst to purchase or fund a renewable energy project or projects in our own community to benefit everyone. Cool Cities believes there are better alternatives than this proposed aggregation contract provides, and that the opportunity to use a cash reimbursement would be allocated toward renewable energy projects here in town that more directly benefit Elmhurst residents and promote renewable energy projects in Illinois. Thank you for your consideration. And just one quick note, on March 3rd at Elmhurst College at the Scheibel Science Center, Elmhurst Cool City is sponsoring the documentary Paris to Pittsburgh. And it talks about how renewable energy benefits society, could benefit Elmhurst residents, and we extend the offer to everybody to come in and share the wonderful knowledge that you'll gain from it and be able to better pursue it if you so choose. Again, Sunday, March 3rd, 1 o'clock, Scheibel Science Center. Thank you.
Edgar Pal.
Good evening, my name is Edgar Powell. I am here to speak tonight about item 5.13, the videotape and DVD retention policy. First of all, I'd like to thank and echo Mr. Silver for his comments. I definitely agree with a lot of what he said. I too watch a lot of the videos that are currently posted on the city's YouTube website just to see what's discussed. or stated during meetings. And I also feel that keeping all of the videos is important to the city's transparency and our ability to hold our officials accountable. So I have a couple of concerns about the report as written today. First, I am told by my first ward alderman that the report is trying to figure out what to do with VHS tapes and DVDs. My concern there is that I'm wondering why the city is still maintaining its records on VHS and DVD media. As you may be aware, those forms of storage media are very obsolete. Most computers nowadays, especially now in 2019, don't even have disk drives. So they certainly can't accept VHS tapes. I don't know of many machines in Elmhurst that can. And most of the newer computers can't even read DVD drives. So I'm just curious as to why that's even an issue here. Alternatives, there are alternatives that you could use to be more compact and mindful of your space, such as hard drives. You can use cloud storage or a variety of other alternatives for memory storage. My second concern is that the policy as written does not require the city to keep its videos on YouTube or any of its other websites. That puts the city at risk of potentially deleting a video even accidentally. And if that happens, we would have no recourse. We wouldn't have a backup copy of the video to rely on. My third concern is that the switch from a 5-year retention period to a 30-day retention period is way too drastic. The original intent, as expressed by this council in 2000, was to keep the videos for longer than 4 years, which is the length of an alderman's term, so that we can hold those aldermen accountable. So therefore, I ask that you keep the retention policy as is, and also clarify or have a policy on record that would require the city to keep its videos online as well. Thank you.
Claude Pagaz.
Claude Pocket, 566 White Glass. This will be to the mayor and the city manager. I got a problem. They built a new home next to me. In the process, there was a cave-in. Damaged some of my property. Got a couple calls from the building department. I begin to wonder about the building department after those 2 phone calls. So I was also told that because of the damage, that there'd be a record of it in the application for occupancy. I believe today that somebody's occupying that structure. And the damage is still there. So I don't want to deal with the building department anymore. I listen to their rhetoric, and you guys got a problem. So if you would be kind enough to look into this, and I can get a call. The alderman probably haven't the faintest idea what I'm talking about, but that's okay. So I'd appreciate it if somebody should get injured on my property. Somebody's going to be responsible. It isn't going to be me. Also, you're going to be talking about the water bill. I would advise all the aldermen to go talk to their residents before they start talking about a water bill. I've heard from a few of them, and they're not too overly happy. So you better really consider what you're going to do. It's a shame that the city has to make money off water. If people really looked at their bill, they'd see just how the city makes money off water. And these new meters, council may think they're great. One thing I didn't get with my meter was something very simple. That it was tested to read accurately There was a suburb that put in electronic meters. They proved not to be accurate. So, you guys got a problem with this water? That next bill I get, we can see how much what you do tonight affects it.
Mr. Pragash, could you wrap up your comments, please?
Yeah, and that damage to my property, Mayor. I talked to those guys in the building department.
That's it. That's signed in.
Okay, that's it for public forum for those who signed in at this time. Is there anybody who did not have an opportunity to sign in on our sign-in sheet before the meeting but wishes to address the council at this time? If so, please raise your hand so I can get a count. Anybody wish to address the council at this time? Seeing none, that concludes public forum for the evening. Agenda item 4, any announcements from the dais? Seeing none, we'll go on to the consent agenda. At this time, is there any item on the consent agenda any alderman wishes to have removed or vote no? Alderman Sabatino.
5.13.
Okay, anyone else? Alderman Palomsky.
5.20.
Alderman Brennan.
5.12.
Okay, 5.12, 5.13, 5.20. Anyone else? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item 5.12, item 5.13, and item 5.20. Motion by Alderman Brennan, second by Alderman Sabatino. Clerk Cyprian.
Mulliner,
Aye.
Brennan,
Aye.
Sabatino,
Aye.
Deuter,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Leader,
Aye.
Palomsky,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Toledo,
Aye.
York, absent, Levin,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Conquest,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
Sorry, I missed that. Could you repeat that again?
13 ayes,
Oh,
0 nays, 1
Very
absent.
good. Okay, on to agenda item 5.12. This is a report out of Finance. Clerk Cyprian, I ask that you read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council accept the proposal from My Civic app for professional services and annual license fees related to the My Civic application for a total fee of $23,710. Signed, Kevin York, Chairman, Mark Sabatino, Vice Chairman, Tina Park, unsigned, Mike Brennan.
Okay, to put this before council, I ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Sabatino, second by Alderman Park. Alderman Sabatino, this report's out of your committee.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll defer to Alderman Brennan, who pulled the report.
Okay, Alderman Brennan, you pulled this report. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, I was absent at the last Finance Committee meeting due to work. I just wanted to formally go on the record that I am in support of this report. I'm in the technology business, and I think this makes good sense. So I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Alderman Toledo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't going to pull it off of the consent agenda, but since Alderman Brennan did, I'll just chime in as another person with extensive IT experience. And I've also been calling for this, something like this, for a long time, even when I was back on the Finance Council Affairs Committee. Very excited to see the committee bring this to us. Thank the staff for the work they did on finding something that can work for our municipality. This is going to be a benefit for residents. It's going to be a benefit for folks on staff, and it's going to just help increase our service and know what type of service levels we have, and help us respond to people more effectively. So thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Clerk Cyprian.
Mulliner,
Aye.
Brennan,
Aye.
Sabatino,
Aye.
Deuter,
Aye.
Aye.
Leader,
Aye.
Palomsky,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Toledo,
Aye.
York, absent, Levin,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Conquest,
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Agenda item 5.12 is approved. On to 5.13. Alderman Sabatino, before I ask Clerk Cyprian to read the recommendation, want to chime in?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull Agenda Item 513 back to our committee for further review and discussion.
Okay. 5.13 goes back to committee. On to 5.20. This is a resolution. Clerk Cyprian, I ask that you read the resolution.
A resolution approving and authorizing the issuance of a notice of award and execution for a contract for the 2019-21 contract turf and landscape maintenance.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the resolution as read. Motion by Alderman Kennedy, second by Alderman Deuter. Alderman Kennedy, care to opine?
I will defer this, I believe, to Alderman Palomsky, who pulled this.
Palomsky, you pulled this?
Yes, I did, Mayor.
Okay.
Thanks. I understand that there was one response to the bid, and it's also at the point at which that's been listed. So we're not able to change too much here, but I do have a few questions. I'm wondering if on the city side, can we list and post, can we list the specific herbicides and any fertilizers used and when that is happening? Is there a way to make that available every time it's used?
City manager?
Yes, we can do that. I talked with Howard earlier, and he's working with the forestry department, who oversees the contract, to get that information.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Any other comments? Clerk Cyprian?
Mulliner?
Aye.
Brennan?
Aye.
Sabatino?
Aye.
Deuter?
Aye.
Dunn?
Aye.
Leader?
Aye.
Palomsky?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Saludo?
Aye.
York, absent. Levin?
Aye.
Park?
Aye.
Conquest?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
59 0 nays, motion carries. Agenda item 5.20 is approved. On to committee reports. Agenda item 6.1. It's a report out of finance. I'd ask Clerk Cyprian to read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council direct the City Attorney to prepare an amendment to the Municipal Code of Ordinances changing the water rate and sewer rate and restating the capital investment recovery charges as outlined above, effective for usage billed on or after March 4th, 2019. The FCAAS Committee further recommends that the City Attorney prepare an amendment to the Municipal Code of Ordinances to include both cubic meter rates and 1,000-gallon rates for 2019 as outlined above. Signed, Kevin L. York, Chairman Mark P. Sabatino, Vice Chairman Tina Park, and unsigned Mike Brennan? No,
I got it
signed Mike
signed.
Brennan, okay. I thought it was a mistake.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Sabatino, second by Alderman Brennan. Alderman Sabatino, your report.
Thank you, Mayor. So City Council approved the initial Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee report recommendation on water sewer rates and surcharges at the January 22nd City Council meeting. However, based on some prior conversations with elected officials and general deliberation, the chair of this committee met with city staff subsequent to the City Council meeting to explore further options regarding the rate determination. During this meeting, many ideas were discussed, and it was determined that the best course of action was to have staff prepare some additional analyses for the committee to review. Staff was asked to deconstruct the user rate determination model and reconstruct it from the ground up, including allowances for debt to fund capital expenditures previously funded by user rates. So the recommendation that is before you tonight is a revised recommendation adjusting the city water consumption user rates. The user rate adjustment is recommended for two reasons. First, the committee is recommending that $4 million of the 2018 bond proceeds be used to fund specific capital improvement expenditures originally contained within operating expenditures funded by user rates on an annual basis. By amortizing these capital improvements over 20 years, the impact on 2019 user rates is lessened. From an equity perspective, users of the system who are beneficiaries of the improvements for the next 20 to 100 years will be paying for the improvements instead of just the water user rate payers today. Second, it was determined that the recommended 25% cash fund balance should be reduced by excluding the DuPage Water Commission water commodity costs from the fund balance calculation. While a budgeted annual expense, the purchase of the water commodity has a dedicated funding source, which is the water bill itself. It's a pass-through cost, and as a result, a fund balance reserve is not required. Along the same lines, some additional capital expenditure costs with known funding sources other than user rates, primarily IEPA loans, were identified in the annual system expenses. Based on the fund balance policy established in the 2014 system report, these expenses can be eliminated from the fund cash balance level calculation as well. Based on this review, the committee has concluded that the reduction of the water consumption user rate from the 15% increase as originally recommended to a 6% increase as a result of these two adjustments is appropriate and warranted. Consequently, the overall impact for the typical user consuming 12,000 gallons per 2-month billing period is an increase of $6.60 or 2.74% rather than $12.72 or 5.28%. This equates to an increase of about $3.30 per month for the average water user. As a bonus, by making the adjustments identified to funding sources for capital improvement expenditures, the MUF fund will also achieve the desired 25% cash balance 1 year sooner than originally anticipated, which will help to solidify the financial stability of the MUF system. Staff reminded the committee that the Baxter and Woodman Water Sewer Study Report is 5 years old. So consequently, the committee is requesting staff to provide Baxter and Woodman the information needed to develop a comprehensive update to the 2014 report as soon as possible. The committee will immediately review and incorporate findings in the updated study in its annual review of the current rate structure and fund balance considerations to ensure that the user fees and surcharges recommended are equitable costs. With that, I ask for your support and thank you in advance.
Okay. Additional comments? Alderman Dunn.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This report, I struggled with it at first because the recommendation is to take $4 million out of a bond issue that was designated for stormwater projects. That bond was issued late last year, so it's not been around that long. And moving those funds into the MUF fund to fund operating capital investments, those being mainly the water main replacement and the sanitary sewer system lining. When I was on finance several years ago when we reviewed this, we felt those type of expenses were ongoing. I talked to Director Trozine today. We have 180 miles of water mains in the city, and we try to do about 2 miles a year, so it takes about 90 years to get through the whole city. We're going to be doing that every year, year in, year out. So to issue bonds for that, I do have some concern, and the sanitary sewer lining is similar. There's similar coverage, and we're going to be doing that every year. I think that the rationale in this case, because we've been behind in our upgrades, we were doing maybe down near 1 mile a year, 1.2 miles a year. We need to be up over 2 to hit that 90-year cycle. So, although I have concerns about taking this funding from bond issues and moving it to operating capital expenses, I see the cause right now as acceptable because we are trying to make up ground. And I view that as maybe a little bit extraordinary, over and above the normal year in and year out replacement. So I will support this, although there was one recommendation here, a recommendation 4 to issue $10 million bonds every other year to fund $5 million a year for water main and sanitary sewer lining. I would not support that because I think that is a something that is just an ongoing expense that I wouldn't want to issue bonds and have to pay interest rates on those. Those bonds generally go 20 years, so we'd be paying each one of those bonds off for 20 years and incurring interest interest charges for those and debt service. So I will support this, but I just want to make sure, I just want to voice my thought and opinion that this is a one-time investment and that I wouldn't want to see this method and approach repeat year after year. Thanks.
Any other comments? Alderman Toledo?
Thank you. I suppose that those of us who have recently served on the Finance Committee can't help but chime in a little here. I want to thank staff and the committee for pulling this back in and taking an even closer look at things. This is there's a lot of details that go into this. To a person who's paying a water bill, all of us, we see a rate, we see a fee, we see a price, but behind the scenes, there's a lot of details that go into building up the budget, how to pay for those things. And as Alderman Dunn and Alderman Sabatino mentioned, we're playing a little bit of catch up, as I think most of the council knows by now, that we were behind in our maintenance of the capital components of the system for a long time. And so the committee taking a look again at how to finance that catch-up period. Is it appropriate to use all the rate to simply do the catch-up? I think that they determined, and I support the recommendation, that it's not necessarily appropriate to just use the water rate to catch up for a lot of the things that we haven't done as much of as we needed to in the past. So I do support the recommendation. I echo a lot of Alderman Dunn's comments about the future. We shouldn't just be bonding for ongoing capital operating expenses all the time, but in this circumstance, it makes sense and is an appropriate thing to do for equitable ways of financing the costs that we have to put into the system to make it strong for the next 90 years. Thank you.
Any other comments? Clerk Cyprian.
Mulliner?
Oh, hi.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was quick.
Alderman Braham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I guess I'm on the fence on this issue and this report. When we discussed what I'll call the original report 2 weeks ago, the original report was a significantly higher increase for the water rate. The initial report passed this council 12-1-1, myself being the only vote saying that it was too rich. I'm glad that, as Alderman Sabatino stated, other aldermen had concerns because that's what brought this back to committee for further discussion, it seems like. Because I believe back then, and I still believe, that the water rate is too high. One of the questions that I asked 2 weeks ago was, if we didn't pass that higher rate, what projects wouldn't be done? And there was no answer then, and I don't know if there's an answer today. Today's recommendation is to, yes, lower the monthly water rate, but as Alderman Sabatino summarized eloquently, that we're still getting the same amount of revenue, we're just taking it from a bond that's already existing versus having it tagged to a monthly or bi-monthly water bill. I have concerns with that. That bond was for or is currently, unless this moves forward, for certain stormwater projects, and that's why it was phrased in the bond issue that way. It was for those stormwater projects. If we utilize those dollars, as Alderman Dunn, I believe, said, 4 million of which from that bond, to handle the operating capital, as we're coining that phrase, projects that were utilized with the monthly water bill revenue source, if we utilize that, we're still going to have to rebond for those projects. So we're still being taxed in a different way. So we're going to have to go for another bond to make up for the monies we're using from the current bond to do the operating capital projects that's being proposed in this report. So the total increase is still going to be the same. It's just going to be, as Alderman Sabatino said, amortized over 20 years. 20 years plus interest. So even though we're not impacted immediately, we're still being impacted plus interest compared to being impacted on a bi-monthly water bill. The other concerns I have for this is not only the basis of why this change is needed when everybody on the council, committee, and staff was all for the higher increase 2 weeks ago, but I try to do checks and balances and do some web searches on other communities, and one of my favorites, it seems like lately, is Glen Ellen. Their current, and they're a much smaller community, I would say, about 20,000 compared to our 46 and change, I believe. Their current water rates are $9.93 for water per 1,000 gallons, and $7.18 for sewer. What's being proposed today is sewer, pretty much the same thing. I think we're about a penny off, 7.17, so $7.17. So we match up identically almost to Glen Ellen, which is interesting. But the water rate were significantly higher, $10.92, and I'll just quote what they have, versus $9.93, so $1 more per 1,000 gallons. And I would think just by the quantity that we're serving that there would be some benefits there on why we would be $1 more than a neighboring community for which they get the water from the same source. I'm a little bit concerned. Yes, we might need to do more capital projects, so it might not be an apple-to-apple comparison, but that is significant. From what I know of their water bill, they only do a $3 monthly fee surcharge, and we have the surcharge, which is a lot more than that, and I forgot the exact numbers. So we have additional sources for the capital projects. We have a higher water rate than a neighboring community. This is lower than what we were having before, but it's still higher. I'm concerned on how this matches up with our budget, because last week, or 2 weeks ago, I asked if we didn't pass it, does this reflect the budget? And I was told, yes, those rates reflected the budget. So what do these rates reflect? Does it reflect the budget or not? I don't know how that compares. The last thing I'll state is, according to the 2014 water and sewer rate study, now I understand that these are proposed rates, and it's about 5 years old, but the city residential water rate documented back then for 2019 is $5.16. So again, even from what we proposed in that study, we're significantly off. We're about 80 cents off from what we proposed as our plan going forward. So it just doesn't, the numbers aren't matching for me. The numbers didn't match 2 weeks ago. I'm concerned with how we came up with these numbers. I'm concerned that we're moving ahead with this proposal. Even though we did additional homework, the committee and staff has openly said that we need Baxter and Woodman to take another look at this. So why don't we propose rate changes after Baxter and Woodman take another look? If we feel that their report 5 years ago is too old, then hold off on increasing the water rates and have data behind our decision. I don't feel that maybe there's data, but not enough data for me to move forward with this decision, because things aren't matching up. We're higher than neighboring communities. We're higher than the report that Baxter and Woodman did 4 or 5 years ago. And I still don't have a good idea on why it would be beneficial to go to a GO bond that's meant for stormwater projects, which we're going to be taxed on those bonds anyway.
Any other comments? Alderman Dunn.
Just a follow-up comment that I didn't mean to be such a downer on the previous comments, but there is some optimism in that our losses in the water that we get from the pipe that comes into the city from the county, the DuPage County Water Commission, who gets it from a pipe that comes from Chicago. We're up over 15% losses, I think is what I heard recently. So that's unaccounted for water that somehow is not getting billed. With the new meters, new leak detection systems in our water mains, that we're able to identify those and get to them and remedy them much quicker. And the increased rate of infrastructure improvement, the water mains in particular, the losses are going to go down. So we're going to have a lot better recovery on the water that we get, and thus I think we're going to get a better return on future investments in the system. Thanks.
Alderman Polomsky.
Thanks, Mayor. I want to thank the committee and staff also for reviewing this again and for coming up with a new formula, a new different report. I had the pleasure of meeting with some scouts several weeks ago before we passed the first report, and we talked about water rates and talked about different pots of money and how you can look at another municipality and they might have a higher property tax rate and maybe they pay for their garbage with some method and we pay for it a different way. And maybe your vehicle sticker might pay for the parking garage maintenance here, but there you pay for it with a meter. So we talked about some of these points, and when we talked about the water rates, we had a discussion about how there are certain fees that we want to pay for as we use them, and then when we talk about planning, we think about bonds, we think about paying for something in the future that somebody else down the line will use, but we also can pay for if we're doing which was brought up tonight. I wish I could meet with them again to talk about, I knew where this was heading at the time. I don't think anybody's thrilled to see any increase, but I do appreciate this change in the report and the recommendation. We have to pay for it somehow, and I think this is a better way to look at it, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Other comments? Seeing none, I'll ask.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh.
I did the wave.
I missed the wave. Alderman Braham, you have some additional comments.
Yeah, just a couple. One being that it was just stated that the water loss is not getting billed today. The water loss is getting billed today. It is being billed to every single resident. So it's not like City of Chicago or DuPage Water Commission is distributing X millions of gallons of water to us and we're not paying for it. We are paying for it. It's just that every single resident is paying a big piece of that. So I just wanted to clarify that because we're not making up any revenue there. We're not going to be wasting as much water if we find our losses, but we're definitely going to be paying for what we receive from the City of Chicago. No matter if we utilize it all or some of it's getting wasted, we're still going to be paying for every dime of it that comes from Chicago. And I believe the percentage of loss, I don't know what we're at today, but I remember discussing it in Public Works and we're around the 20% mark and we wanted to get, I think it's actually federal law to get under 10%, I want to say, going from memory. So we do have a ways to go. The new water meters are a good step in the right direction. We paid a lot of money. We, as in the city of Elmhurst, residents, paid a good money for them. But I think over time it's going to be a great benefit. And that is one of the things I made mention of 2 weeks ago. We don't know what that benefit is. So I think that's one of those data points that I think we should kind of hold back on and understand what that will show us before doing an increase, and now not only doing an increase, but taking bonds out for that increase.
Any other comments? Brennan?
So thank you, Mayor. So from a pragmatic, perspective, we're playing catch-up, and there's no way to avoid the issue. The work that needs to be done to our infrastructure needs to be done. So what I think the committee has done and staff has done is we looked at several options. How do we do that? But we have to catch up. It's as simple as that. And what we have in this report, we feel is the fairest approach to solve for today's problem and build a foundation for us to work from for the future. We desire to look at neighboring cities and their rates and what's going on. And it's just the model is so complex. It's not simple to compare apples to apples. You end up normally looking at oranges and apples, and you're still not sure if you're comparing them correctly. So the simple fact is our infrastructure needs to be addressed. So whether we increase the percentage now or use these funds, I think we're still accomplishing the same end goal. The fund that we've been dealing with has been underfunded for a number of years. So we're looking to stabilize the environment to where we can pivot and take additional data down the road and make some educated decisions based on what needs to be done for the future versus playing this catch-up game. I think it's a pragmatic approach, and I do appreciate the work that staff's put into the alternatives that we looked at and evaluated. Thank you.
Any other comments? Clerk Cyprian.
Mulliner?
Aye.
Brennan?
Aye.
Sabatino?
Aye.
Deuter?
Aye.
Aye.
Leader?
Aye.
Palumski?
Aye.
Graham?
No.
Toludo?
Aye.
York? Absent? Levin?
Aye.
Park?
Aye.
Conquest?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
12 ayes, 1 nay, 1 absent.
All ayes, 1 nay, motion carries. Agenda item 6.1 is approved. On to agenda item 6.2. It's another report out of Finance. Clerk Cyprian, I'd ask you to read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council authorize the adjustment of the projects list contained in Ordinance 064-2018 to include various municipal utility fund capital projects, including but not limited to water tower painting, reservoir improvements, water main replacement, and sanitary sewer lining. The committee further recommends that the City Council direct the City Attorney/Bond Counsel to prepare the appropriate documents for City Council consideration. Signed, Kevin L. York, Chairman, Mark P. Sabatino, Vice Chairman, Tina Park, and Mike Brennan.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Sabatino, second by Alderman Park. Alderman Sabatino.
Thank you, Mayor. So as detailed in the last agenda item, our committee discussed the use of debt issuance as part of the additional review of MUF rates. The committee considered the utilization of idle bond proceeds from the 2018 GO bonds, as well as issuing additional bonds in 2019 or 2020 to cover MUF capital expenditure costs originally funded through operations in the form of water consumption user fees. Because certain stormwater projects with District 205 that were itemized in the 2018 GO bond issue are currently on hold, the committee determined that the most prudent option was to use the portion of the 2018 GO bonds funds originally designated for stormwater to fund the MUF capital improvements. For most of the city's prior bond ordinances, the qualified project lists identified in those ordinances were much broader and could be used to fund almost any type of capital project. However, the language used in the 2018 GO bond ordinance was much more specific, and therefore projects were limited to stormwater initiatives. including public safety, buildings, metro station improvements, and ongoing water meter replacement projects. Therefore, the city attorney has instructed us that as an ordinance identifying these additional capital projects in the MUF will be required. The projects identified in this ordinance include water tower painting and refurbishment, water reservoir refurbishment, water main replacement, and sanitary sewer lining. The use of bond proceeds will provide much-needed cash flow for the MUF, thereby strengthening the financial stability of the fund. Also, the cost of the capital improvements identified in this ordinance, which have an estimated useful life of approximately 20 to 100 years, will be borne by those users benefiting from those long-term capital improvements via the CERC rate versus today's user fee payers. I ask for your support and thank you in advance.
Okay. Comments or questions? Alderman Bram?
I just want to speak to one of the statements I made the previous discussion. If this moves forward and if the projects as stated, York High School and Jackson School, move forward, that would mean that we would need to go out for another bond to cover those projects. Is that an accurate statement?
Do you know how many? We have any leftover money in the bond fund, or we bond next year?
We do. Tom is shaking his head, yes, that we will have leftover dollars.
Okay. Alderman Bram, I believe we have enough money in addition to spending it in this manner to cover those projects, is that correct?
Not to cover all the projects.
Just get started?
There will be remaining funds in there.
Oh, remaining funds.
Not enough to cover both projects, no.
That answer your question?
So I'll interpret that as saying that we would still need to bond out to complete the planned projects that we have on the table.
Yes.
All right, the thing I'll say to that is, my understanding, my perception of the reason why the verbiage was put in that bond was specifically to set our policy in writing that we are going to use these bonds for the stormwater projects because the stormwater projects were the #1 priority and have been the #1 priority for many years. I think we're shifting from a priorities perspective, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't, because the projects that these are being reestablished for are probably just as serious as the stormwater projects. But I think that I have concern over doing that because now we're going to need to bond out again, and I don't know what our debt level is at this point, if we need to bond out, and for how much more we're going to need to bond out moving forward. The way I interpreted it was, since we're taking $4 million, my understanding is our current bonds covered those two projects and anything we had remaining for the current ongoing ones, so we had no monies left over. So my understanding was we're going to have to bond out for another $4 million to move those projects forward, if not more. So I have concern over that. It doesn't seem like, at least I have the data points of the dollars that will be needed and we'll need to bond out in the future.
On 11.
I am going to state what my understanding is, just to make sure that I have it correct, and that is that there's been a policy change to use bond revenues to pay for some of these what are appropriately capital expenses. We didn't bond for it before. We're looking at some stormwater projects that I think are still a priority, but because those projects are a little bit stalled, we are going to use those funds, and then appropriately, when the stormwater projects are ready to move forward, which might not be till next year when we need those additional funds. So I kind of look at the way my mother used to do budgeting. She had little envelopes, some for the milkman, some for the doctor, some for the dentist. And if we're getting some extra milk but no one's going to the doctor, she'd pull some money out of there, and then a little later on she'd fill back up the doctor's, envelope later. And he would get it when he made a house call in those days. But so if my understanding's correct, then I'm very comfortable doing this. I don't see this as a shift of priorities. I think it's a shift of when we're going to use bonded funds, and I guess I'll ask Finance or the mayor.
Your understanding is correct.
Thank you.
We're shifting money to capital projects that are ready, that we would have been paying for in the future. Some of the capital projects that we had planned have been delayed. That's all this is doing.
Thank you.
Additional comments? Alderman Bram.
So is this a one-time effort, or is this an ongoing yearly? Alderman Dunn made comments referencing this. To me, the way the reports, plural, are written is that this is going to be an ongoing effort that we're going to bond out for these operating, right, Tom, operating capital costs moving forward. Otherwise, if we don't do it every year, then we're going to see the larger increase as we were proposed 2 weeks ago for the water bill. So it's, I don't know if we're playing it by ear every year and therefore keeping our policy open, or this is a one-time thing to keep the water bill down, but then future years we're going to see a higher increase to still gain that revenue for the capital operating costs, operating capital costs.
Any other comments? I'm not sure I understood your question, Alderman Bram. I know there was a question in there somewhere. Honestly,
Essentially, is this one time? Is using a bond to pay for these operating capital costs a one-time thing? Or is this a policy shift that we're going to be doing every year, or considering, maybe not doing, but considering every year?
I don't think this is a policy shift, but I can't tell you that this will or will not come before the Finance Committee again, but this is a pretty unique situation. So I don't think it's a policy to look to shift every time. This is a unique situation.
But it's a situation that's going to happen yearly because, as Alderman Dunn said and others, we have to, and Alderman Brennan just mentioned, we have to play catch-up. So on our infrastructure. So if we're playing catch-up, we're going to have these larger increases, and we're going to need to gain the revenue one way or another. Yeah, but they're tied.
Any additional comments? Clerk Cyprian.
Mulliner?
Aye.
Brennan?
Aye.
Sabatino?
Aye.
Joyner?
Aye.
Dunn?
Aye.
Leader?
Aye.
Palumski?
Aye.
Graham?
No.
Saludo?
Aye.
York? Absent. Levin?
Aye.
Park?
Aye.
Conquest?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
12 ayes, 1 nay, 1 absent.
12 ayes, 1 nay, motion carries. Agenda item 6.2 is approved. On to reports and recommendations of appointed and elected officials. Mayor Morley, that's me. 3 quick points. Our St. Patrick's Day Parade is right around the corner. March, I have that right? March 9th? March 9th at noon at Spring Road. I think everyone knows where it is. Elmhurst St. Pat's Parade.com. You can get all the details and see all the sponsors that help make that a great event. In addition, on March 1st, Elmhurst College, this is a good one, maybe I'll go to this. Oh, I'm supposed to go to this. I don't think I have a choice. The ABCs of Gen Ys and Gen Zs. If you don't understand them, they're going to help you. This is about engaging and employing our future leaders. It's a half-day symposium about Gen Ys and Gen Zs and their role in the workplace and the marketplace. That's on March 1st, and I believe it starts at 8:30 in the morning and runs till about noon. Details are at elmhurstcollege.edu. And finally, talked a lot about water rates tonight. There is something that you can do to monitor your water usage. Elmhurst has a Water Smart program. It is a fantastic program that as of right now only 10% of our residents have signed up for. I would encourage you to go on the elmhurst.org, the Elmhurst City website, and search for Elmhurst Water Smart. It's a fantastic program that you can sign up for and personally monitor your own use at your house. It's invaluable. They'll even send you reminders if you have a leaky toilet or if you're doing a lot of laundry. They'll even notice that. That's it for me. City Manager.
I have nothing tonight, but I know Clerk Cyprian has something.
Clerk Cyprian, you have a report?
Yes, I do. Elmhurst City Hall Council Chambers will be an early voting site for the registered voters in DuPage County for the April 2nd consolidated election. Early voting starts Monday, March 18th and ends Saturday, March 30th. The hours are Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay. Any other reports? Alderman Dunn.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick update on, we had a Fly Quiet committee meeting today. Main topic of that meeting was the SOC sponsored a study by the JDA consulting firm to look at some rotation plans for takeoff only, not landings. And they looked at a couple different alternatives, but really we're pushing taking off on certain runways and then heading at certain headings after they took the planes would take off to minimize the impact of those planes. Some on the committee were of the idea that we could have a rotating runway plan, but then rotating headings on top of it. So one week you might go right off the runway, and another week you might go left. But the SOC study recommended against that, stating that it was more noise impactful of the residents. One statistic they showed in the presentation was the nighttime flights have been going up. The landings have gone up about 7%, or I'm sorry, the takeoffs have been going up about 7% over the past 6 years, but the arrivals have gone up about 40%, which those tend to be a little bit more disruptive for Elmhurst on the runway than impacts us. So that's something also to note. Shifting gears to the interim Fly Quiet, the FAA hosted some open houses 2 weeks ago, and comments are due next Wednesday. The City of Elmhurst is putting together a letter with our comments associated with that, and that will be sent out. We're also talking to other communities to possibly submit a joint letter also with them. That's all I have.
Any other reports? Alderman Bram, you have a report.
Yes, sir. In regards to the IFQ, I also attended the open house. It was very informative. My understanding from speaking to the representation there, that out of, I think it was 4 different open houses, Elmhurst was the second most attended out of those 4, going from my recollection. In regards to the comments, I'm glad to hear that report from Alderman Dunn. I'm hoping those would be distributed to all of the aldermen prior to submitting it to ONCC, or if there's any way that I could collaborate with the city to submit my thoughts in regards to what should be commented about IFQ as well. The other thing is that there was a proposed resolution in support of IFQ. I believe it was sent out from the ONCC's executive director. I would like to get an understanding of where the City of Elmhurst stands on that resolution, because again, my understanding is that it makes it seem like how it is phrased, that it's a unanimous, all communities are in unanimous support of IFQ, which Elmhurst has passed their own resolution saying that's not true. So has the city of Elmhurst, or does the city of Elmhurst plan to respond to this resolution, and if so, in what manner?
We'll get back to you on that, Alderman Graham. Any other reports? On to agenda item 8.1. This is an ordinance. I'd ask Clerk Cyprian to read the ordinance.
An ordinance authorizing the execution of a master power supply agreement by and between MC Squared Energy Services, LLC, and the city of Elmhurst, DuPage, and Cook Counties, Illinois.
Put this before council. I'll ask for a motion to approve the ordinance as read. Motion by Alderman Sabatino, second by Alderman Brennan. Alderman Sabatino.
Thank you, Mayor. As council will recall, the committee report recommending the approval of this ordinance and master power supply agreement with MC Squared was approved at the January 22nd City Council meeting. At that time, Alderman York provided an overview of the program we have before us. Just a few comments or highlights. This is the third aggregation program for the city, of which we had previously used MC Squared in our first program and had an excellent working relationship. Our agreement is for 2 years. Roughly 50% of the municipalities signed up with MC Squared are on a 2 to 3 year agreement. We've elected to acquire RECs, or renewable energy certificates, versus a civic contribution by MC Squared. As a result, the electricity used by residents and small businesses included in the aggregation program will be covered by RECs. Incidentally, of the communities signed up with MC Squared, approximately 80% have chosen to receive the RECs. Residents can opt in or opt out at any time with no early termination fees. And if approved, the program would go into effect around May 1st with the first billing in June. So in closing, this is a testament to supporting renewable energy resources and promotes good sustainability practices. I ask for your support and thank you in advance.
Okay, any comments? Clerk Cyprian.
Mulliner?
Aye.
Brennan?
Aye.
Sabatino?
Aye.
Deuter?
Aye.
Dunn?
Aye.
Leader?
Aye.
Polumsky?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Toludo?
Aye.
York, absent. Levin?
Aye.
Park?
Aye.
Conquest?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. On to agenda item 8.2. This is an ordinance. I'd ask Clerk Cyprian to read the ordinance.
An ordinance to approve and authorize acceptance of a certain grant of an easement agreement with the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County to permit the St. Charles Road Bridge improvements by the Village of Villa Park and for the City of Elmhurst to maintain existing water main and storm sewer lines located in the Salt Creek Greenway at St. Charles Road in the City of Elmhurst, Illinois. PIN 0603415008, part. See item 5.5.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the ordinance as read. Motion by Alderman Kennedy, second by Alderman Deuter. Discussion. Clerk Cyprian.
Mulliner?
Aye.
Brennan?
Aye.
Sabatino?
Aye.
Deuter?
Aye.
Dunn?
Aye.
Leader?
Aye.
Polumsky?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Toludo?
Aye.
York, absent. Levin?
Aye.
Park?
Aye.
Conquest?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Agenda item 8.2 is approved. On to other business. Any other business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Alderman Kennedy, second by Alderman Deuter. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We're adjourned.